She's all right when you get to know her. This is my podcast, and it takes you from your restrictive, toxic, life-limiting 9 to 5 into a life on your terms, full of freedom and flexibility as a self-employed virtual assistant. So whether this is your first introduction into the possibility of becoming a VA, or perhaps you've been doing a bit of Googling already, I'm going to get rid of the overwhelm, rid of the self-doubt, and show you that this life is possible. I've not just started this rodeo, you know. I'm Catherine Gladwyn, and I've been doing what you think is impossible since 2015. Shall we get started? Burnout. We've all been there in some way or another. Do you know what? I never think I'm burnt out. And then we'll go on a week's holiday in January, and we also go in September as well. And it's not until I'm there that I think, yeah, I was a bit tired actually. I was doing a bit too much. So in this episode, whether you notice that you're burnt out or not, I'm going to just give a few tips based on my own experience and also working with other people, how to sort of avoid that burnout, because it is something that can happen as much as you don't want it to, and as much as you kind of go for this life to get away from any of that stress and burnout. Before you know it, you're deep into your business and you're working more hours than you even did when you were in a 9 till 5, and you're ready to burst. So I'm going to give you a few ways to be mindful of looking out for the burnout, how you can recognize it, and ways to avoid it or to deal with it once it's there. And I do not give any medical advice. Something I always say, based on my own experiences, is if something doesn't feel like you're normal, then go and speak to a doctor and ask them why things are feeling different. There's an advert on the telly. I'm doing this in front of the telly, right? And the telly's on mute, and it's a spa hotel. But I've got my reading glasses on, so I can't see. Or Warner Hotels. And that for old people. Look nice though. That's another thing you need to do, is book lots of spa hotels and things like that. Oh my God. Went away the other weekend for my daughter's birthday, and we booked the retreat at Alcott, ELCOT. It's only half an hour down the road from me. Oh my God. When we stayed there for 2 nights, so 3 days, 2 nights, and I found myself pining to go back there once I was home because it was just so nice. It's posh, but relaxing. And if you saw my Instagram stories while I was there, the Great British Bake Off presenters were there. So Alison Hammond, Nigella Lawson, Noel Fielding in the most ridiculous outfit, and Paul Hollywood, but I only saw Paul from behind. And I was a bit disappointed actually, because I went there for a nice quiet weekend with my daughter. So I don't know who told them I was there, because they were clearly there to see me, right? Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let me take you back, because I want you to remember that rush when you first started your business or first wanted to become a VA. That first day of being like a full-time virtual assistant, thinking, oh my God, the stress of a 9 to 5, the restrictions of a 9 to 5 are behind me forever. This is now my new life. You got more freedom knocking on your front door than I've got Amazon knocking on it when my other half's been paid. It is unbelievable, the amount of times that Amazon knocks on the door, but also the freedom that you've got, the flexibility, and just the endless possibilities. It's amazing, isn't it? I always liken it to playing with, I always thought it was a Fisher-Price post office set, but it was the petite post office set. Loved it. I always likened this journey to just playing with that every day. Fantastic. But then before you know it, your mum's taken the post office set down to the car boot. No, before you know it, you literally have no idea when you last switched off. Granted, right, you can no longer recite the number of hours until the next bank holiday, but you're constantly thinking about marketing, audience building. What the fuck is this new software everybody's talking about? Do I need to learn it? Do I need to buy it? Should I have a rebrand? Am I following the 20% rule? I don't want to say no to this new client, even though it will mean me working more hours than I did when I was employed. All of those things constantly going round in your mind. It doesn't just turn off at 3 o'clock or anything like that. You know, I still remember my first 10K month. It was a long, long time ago now, but obviously I was in complete shock of like, you know, what the I've just earned in a month what I'd have earned in 5 to 6 months as an employee. And that was incredible. But I also remember the exhaustion. what I'd done is I'd taken on 3 website projects and also had my normal clients as well. So it it was just, uh, if I wasn't working on the big projects that I brought in or dealing with ongoing regular clients, I was thinking about the projects or worrying about getting them finished. And that is just, that starts to then upset your tummy and your mind, and you don't sleep too well because you're just, yeah, you might sleep for a good number of hours, but you were sort of stirring in the night when you get up for a wee. It's the first thing you think about, and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. And that's when I decided that burnout wasn't going to happen again. However, I wasn't going to stop getting those 10K months. So I'm going to share something with you at the end to help you when you get to like months where you're bringing in more money than you could have ever imagined. You don't need to achieve it by burning out. So I'm going to share some tips with you at the end. But for me in that instance, it was not worth it. Taking on 3 website projects and having all my normal clients was just ridiculous. So, like I said, I decided that wasn't going to happen again. But the best bit is it doesn't mean you have to take a loss of income, which I will cover briefly at the end of this podcast. Or if you've got my second best-selling book, The 20% Rule, which is available on Amazon, then, and if you've read it and you're not using it to prop up that coffee table that your mum gave you when you first moved into your house, then you will know some of these tricks already. First of all, the telltale signs. Are you headed for burnout and you don't really know it yet? I mean, beyond the classic like fatigue, subtle shifts in motivation, and just the overall enthusiasm for things that you were enthusiastic about before. That they can be signs of burnout. They can be signs of exhaustion. As I said earlier, it could be signs of other things as well. So if anything feels abnormal, go and speak to your doctor. It's always the best option. And if you phone them today, then you'll have an appointment in 6 months' time, by which time you'd have worked out whether, it is some infectious disease or it is burnout. So, I mean, if you find yourself more snappy with people at home or delivery drivers, or you're more aggressive and impatient on the road, or you're finding that people next to you on the sofa are really kind of over masticating, or you're wondering why that bloke round the corner has to have his parking sensors so loud, or things like that could all be telltale signs that you're just a little bit tired. What's causing that exhaustion though? What is it? Now, I know I've always got your back, haven't I? I know it's not you. I know it's everybody else. But let's just pretend for the sake of this podcast that it is you. Do you always feel that you're always on and you can't focus? You miss hearing people when they're talking about things that aren't to do with work, and you're blurring the lines between work and personal life. You're sat there and usually you'd be enjoying that police cop show on Channel 5 with 38 adverts every 15 minutes. But now you're like, oh, just can't be bothered. I'd rather get the laptop out and finish this project I'm on. Is there, is work really taking over at the moment? That could be a red flag. If you do have somebody over masticating on the settee next to you, and you've had feelings of wanting to karate chop them or anything like that, then again, that's a red flag, apparently. But the old physical ailments as well, like digestive issues, they always say, don't they? Things start in your tummy. If your tummy's not feeling great, it's trying to tell you something. Headaches, perhaps, sleep disturbances. I mean, any multitude of things can cause those symptoms. And again, a doctor will know best. Or you may feel that it's something to do with burnout. Even going to your doctor and saying, look, I've got all of these ailments. It could just be burnout, but I want to talk to you about it. And they'll be able to help you with that. But, there are things that we can do. It's not too late. It's never too late to do anything. And I'm going to talk about boundaries just quickly in a minute, because sometimes our boundaries need revisiting. And sometimes they're born from experience. Like, it wasn't until probably, I think, about 3 years into my business that I decided I am not working with anybody that is completely tech illiterate, because it is just stressful when or I find it stressful when they're like, Yeah, I've done that, but it's still not doing it. Well, no, it can't be not doing it because, or I used to have a client that'd say, LastPass has logged me out. It's deleted itself from my laptop. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. You've deleted it. Or I went onto my website and all I was going to do was update the plugins and it's deleted every page. Really? Let me check that plugin that I put in there to monitor things like that. No, you deleted every page. So we have to learn as we go on that maybe our boundaries need changing a little bit. And if yours do need changing, then it's absolutely fine. And then you can communicate that to your clients. It's something like you could send them an email, something like, in order for me to continue to give you the best service possible, I'm now going to have to insist that work is given to me with 48 hours notice. I'm just throwing something out there just as an idea, but it's absolutely fine to revisit your boundaries and change them and ensure that your clients existing are on board with them. You're not going to lose them. They will respect you for it. And half the time they think to themselves, oh, I wish I had that confidence to, say things to my own clients. In fact, have a look at what boundaries you do have in place currently. Are there any that you forgot were even there? Are there any that clients have agreed to, but they're breaking? Do they need reminding? Sometimes, do you know what, right? If you watch Homes Under the Hammer, sometimes some of these houses are full of damp. And you think, oh my God, I wouldn't want to buy that. Probably needs a brand new roof. Sometimes it just needs a bit of guttering. It's not always going to be a massive thing to make something better. Sometimes it can just be the smallest thing. Maybe just one of your clients, when you sit back and think about it, it's just one of your clients that's pissing you off and making you do more than you'd ever agreed to. And they're breaking a boundary. And that's what's getting you to burnout. So maybe have a look at existing boundaries and just make sure that everyone is still on board with them. If not, then they just need a gentle reminder. You also need to remember the power of no. Declining requests that overextend your capacity, your availability. It's absolutely fine to say no. And I'll tell you at the end of the podcast how to deal with this in another way as well. But just going back to expectations and boundaries, if you like, setting those clear expectations from the start, outlining your response times, your availability, and scope creep prevention. And you do that by setting deadlines yourself, So, for example, when I was building the websites for clients, you'd make sure that every stage has a clear deadline. So I would say to clients, I'll create a website for you in a month. However, you need to get the content to me for the website by X date. I'll then upload it by X date and send it over to you. You'll then check it and you will come back to me by X date with any amendments that are needed. I'll send it back over to you. You'll do one final check within 48 hours and then get it back to me. That way, I can get the website done in a month. If any dates slip, the completion date will fall back and could do quite considerably. So that takes the pressure off you, something like that. So that helps with scope creep prevention, which is really stressful. And, if you've badgered a client twice for something and they're still not forthcoming, you're getting stressed. You don't want to feel like you're giving them extra stress, but equally, you can't take on another project because you haven't yet finished their project. So when I first did a couple of websites, I didn't put all of those, caveats in there. And of course they overran, it caused me stress. So I thought, well, how can I change this? So I would put firm dates in for when things had to come back to me. And it's trial and error. Sometimes you forget something, you think, fuck, that's going to drop it back a little bit, or I'm going to perhaps have to work a little bit late that night. But eventually you do get into the habit of knowing what to ask for and making sure everything's covered. And it just stops people from either A, taking the mickey, and also stops you worrying about it, because if they're late coming back with things, no matter what their excuse is, you've already said it's going to put the completion date back. So another way to do it, and I'm putting this in there because you may be happy to do things like this, but I don't do it because I don't regular check-ins. I can't be doing any of that. You know, I'll happily send an email and say what I've managed to do this week or, how far I think we've got to go with something, but I won't do calls and Zooms and things like that for a regular check-in. Just make sure you're charging for it, whatever you're doing, because, it's time that you can't spend working with someone else. But you can, you can discuss the workload, deadlines, and talk about any potential bottlenecks with things coming up so that you know that you've communicated it. I always think, even if you do it by Zoom or by telephone call, I always think it's best to then follow up by email so that it's in writing somewhere as well. Whatever works for you. It's covering your back, really, isn't it? So some long-term strategies that you can put in place, and these won't happen overnight, but, it's things to work towards, is diversifying your client portfolio. So not sticking to just one niche because, a sector niche, I mean. Unless you're in, I always say the caveat, unless it's legal or medical. But during the pandemic, so many VAs, for some reason, had gone into the well-being sector. So they, had beauticians or whatever and things like that as their clients. And they niched to that sector. And then when the pandemic hit, of course, wellness sector was hit the most. They were the last to go back, I think, weren't they? Were allowed to go back to work. So it wiped out a lot of VAs, like the dinosaurs, I guess. Maybe the dinosaurs niche to the wellness sector. Who knows? So diversify who you are targeting. Make sure it's not just so small that if something happened to that sector, you've had it. If you're a brand new VA, then this is going to be something you'll be working towards. But if you've been in business a little while, you should be near or at a point where no one client is taking up more than 20% of your time or your income. That's my 20% rule, if you've not heard that before, in the book that I mentioned earlier. And I set that rule for myself after losing a client that was a large chunk of my income. And I had to go back to an employed role, a temp one, for a few weeks. Still makes me feel really awful. But yeah, no one client should take up more than 20% of your time or your income, because if they do and you lose them, you're in a state of panic and in a financial. Investing in skill development is a good thing to do as well. If you're totally at capacity, you're unable to do that. But taking back some time for yourself, maybe doing an admin day a month or something. I used to take invoicing day off because I found that, I was just so chuffed that I was sending out these invoices. I had a business. I was creating this wonderful life for myself. So I used to take invoicing day off just to reward myself. Now I don't take invoicing day off. I take every Monday off. So, that is a way to reward myself. And my partner's got Monday off as well. So we spend it together, or I can spend extra time with my daughter if she's got the day off as well. And, there's so much I can do. Or I can choose to maybe do some work if I want to. But I make sure that primarily that Monday is just for me, to just not think about anything else other than things I want to do for fun. But investing in skill development, things like AI, because it is the new kid on the block, right? We're not going to pick on it. We're going to embrace it. It's not taking your job. It's enhancing it. It's making things easier. It's making tasks quicker. Now, you might think to yourself, yeah, but if it makes tasks quicker, then I'm going to earn less money. No, honestly, it just means that you need to start moving over to packages and offering packages, because they're not based on how long something takes you. They're based on the value that you're providing, the end result for the clients. I'll cover it at the end as well as a little synopsis. Synopsis? Conclusion? What's the word? Conclusion. If you email podcast@catherinegladwyn.co.uk and let me know what word I'm looking for. The VA community as well is a great place. I mean, if you're in my Facebook group, then you'll know that everybody's welcoming and nobody's judging. Everybody's there to help. So if you're ever feeling isolated and that's making you feel rubbish, or you're feeling burnt out and you want some, just cheerleaders to say to you, go on, tell that client, bloody well stop it, and then you can move on. Then come and ask in the Facebook group because we will help. I'm in a watercolour group, right? And somebody had asked on there, what's the best paper to use for watercolours? And I thought, oh, I'm glad they asked because I've been wondering, because some of the paper like folds up or it doesn't coat very well with too much water. And there were loads of responses on there, which were really helpful. And then one guy's put on there, this question's been asked about 4,000 times. Can we not just scroll through all of the group posts before you ask a question? Like, what the hell? Rude. No, somebody can't scroll through all of the posts to find an answer to a question. They can ask it again. It helped me. It helped all the other people that saw it and enjoyed it. You don't get any of that in my Facebook group. Well, you can't be asking about watercolour paper because it's not relevant. Remember why you did this. What was your why for wanting to become a virtual assistant? Can you achieve that why at the rate that you're working? So, for example, if your why was to have more holidays, can you realistically do that if you're juggling the clients on your own? Or would it perhaps be best to start bringing in associates so that you can achieve the why of having more holidays? If it was to make sure that you don't have to work after you've picked the children up from school, is that realistic at the moment? Do you need to perhaps up your hourly rate because you're not going to be earning enough unless you do work over 3:00? What change can you make to enable you to achieve your why, that initial why? Next thing is forced breaks. Do you know what pissed me off, right? Sometimes I'll get my laptop out and shut my phone in like another room because I can control much more easily what I do on my laptop. The phone, not so much because of the notifications and things like that and how easy it is to just sort of, I just check like Instagram a minute. Or so off I go into another room, open the laptop, open the software I need to focus on without any distraction. And the bloody thing needs me to get my phone because it's just texted me a flipping code. Or it's sent me an email, so I need to open my emails. And before I know it, I'm replying to Susan, who swears blind she bought the starter guide, and I've removed her access from it, and she's going to sue me, and she's this, that, only to find out she hadn't actually bought it, but she was going to. It is possible to have forced breaks. Turning off notifications if you can, if it's not too stressful, or setting a timer. Think to yourself, do you know what? I am going to do 45 minutes of this task, and then that's it. I'm going to go for a walk around the block. I'm going to feed the ducks. I'm going to do some weeding. I'm going to pop and see me mum or, whatever you're going to do. Maybe putting some breaks into your calendar, your diary, so that notification comes up. Or, hey, do you know what? I wonder if there's something that you can add that shuts your laptop after 45 minutes, but it saves everything first. That might be good, mightn't it? But digital detox. It's very easy to say, very easy to spell, a lot more difficult to do. If you're the main person in the business, it is hard to go on holiday without your laptop or to take real breaks from things. And some people even say to their clients, I'm going on holiday, but I will have my laptop with me if you need anything. No, you will not. You're going on holiday. You might want to take your laptop with you if you're the one in control of your website and you want, if it goes down, you want to make sure that you're able to sort it out. But even that's not a massive problem, is it, for a week? I mean, come on. But, try things like not taking the laptop on a weekend away or some things like that. Another thing actually, right, is put actual lunch breaks in your diary and take them. Put the telly on, watch the news or Bargain Hunt or Homes Under the Hammer. I usually stop work halfway through Homes Under the Hammer, sit down with my sandwich, put my feet up, and it's always at that exact moment they're showing the world's worst bathroom. Always. But I always make sure I take that break. Now, for this bit, I couldn't think of anything else. So I thought, do you know what? I'll ask ChatGPT for something within this little category about forced breaks. What else could I add to this ChatGPT? Have I missed anything? And it suggested desk-friendly exercises and breathing techniques. Fuck off. So I'm not including that. Now, some proactive prevention. I didn't think I'd be able to say that first go, but I did. Setting boundaries, as we've talked about, and systems. So just briefly, like I said, time blocking. That doesn't need to be your whole day, or it can be your whole day. Doesn't hurt. It's what I do. I block what clients are in at certain times when I'm going to do their work, and then nobody overlaps. And also, if somebody comes to me and says, oh, next week I've got a project that I need some help with on Wednesday, either between 9 and 10 or 3 and 4. And if you've time blocked all the other clients, you'll know instantly whether you can help them or not, or whether you need to say, no, but I'm available on the Tuesday. It just helps, because otherwise that's when you're causing yourself stress. Automation. Is there anything in your business you can automate? Now, usually automation software will cost money, but let's just think about what it offsets. So if you're paying for some automation software and it's enabling you to not do any work once you've picked the children up from school, or to not have to take your laptop on holiday, or anything like that. Or maybe if you're going to go on holiday, ask another VA who's just as good as you at websites to be on call should your website go down, or something, anything like that. Automate or delegate. Find some things in your own business that you could automate or delegate. And even if it is for just a one-off task, like I say, you can find a VA buddy to cover things for you just for a week or so. It's just to take things off your mind and just allow your shoulders to relax. Now, I promised I'd share some stuff very quickly, but you can find more in my second best-selling book over on Amazon called The 20% Rule. Just to go on from what I mentioned earlier, declining requests that overextend your capacity is absolutely fine. Now, I said that I would tell you a way of dealing with that, because it is horrible saying no, because, you don't want to say no to the client, of course. But the other thing is you don't want to decline work because you're thinking, yeah, but, this other project will be over soon. So I do need something else to fill it. It'll only be a couple of weeks where I'm working like every hour God sends. What you can do is say, I can't at the moment, but I'm free next month from the 3rd. So shall I book you in for then? I'll just need to take a 3-hour deposit to secure my time, and then I'll be in touch 2 days before and we can get started. Make it all positive, and they'll be like, yeah, that's fine, yeah. Because even if they say it's urgent, it's not urgent, is it? They're not saving lives. They're really not. They're piss poor planning and anybody else's problem. Investing in skill development. Only mentioned this a little while ago, but I cannot stress enough. Get to know AI. It is not taking our jobs. It's enhancing it. Like I said, it's making it easier and it's making tasks quicker, which is why it may be time for you to think about bringing packages into your business, because they're not priced on how much time you spend doing something. It's not the number of hours that it takes you. It's the value that finished service brings. If you've not yet learned how to manipulate and train AI, then you might want to look at my course over on my website. I've just renamed it. I can't remember what I've renamed it. Hang on a minute. It was getting ridiculous, the name of the course. Where's it gone? Here we go. So it's under Fast Track Courses, and it's called Learn How to Train AI to Write for You. But doing that trains it to know everything about your business. And it can, you can even then go to it and say, I'm currently finding that this, and this is taking up so much of my time. Could I automate this? Could I delegate this? I know. I'm going to leave you with that. If you're ready to reclaim your independence, then subscribe to this podcast, because there is so much I'm going to give you. You got to subscribe on your favourite channel, it says. What channel? I ain't going to be on the BBC, am I?